well, at least for the first hour. Okay, so before we start on dividing polynomials, we're going to go back to basic long division. Okay, so let's say, for example, if we have 5,287 divided by 2. Doesn't have to be extravagant, just kind of going over the steps. Okay, so you want to see 2 go into 5. We know it goes in twice. 2 times 5 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so first thing we do here is we multiply, subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Then we bring down. Okay, 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 times 6. Again, we multiply. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. So we multiply, subtract. Let me bring that up a little bit. And then we bring down. So if we bring down the 8 there. Okay, so 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so once again, we multiply, subtract. 8 minus 8 is 0. And we bring down. Okay, so just a repeated process of multiply, subtract, bring down the next one. Multiply, subtract, bring down the next one. Multiply, subtract, bring down the next one. Okay, so if we brought down the 7, 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. So you have 1. So again, multiply, subtract, bring down. Well, nothing to bring down, so kind of stop there. All right. And remember, your remainder goes over your denominator. Okay, so this answer, so if we had 2,643 divided by 2, nope, not sorry, 5,287 divided by 2. Is going to equal 2,643 plus 1 out of 2. Or you can just write it in this case as 2,643 and 1/2, but we're going to leave it like that just because it kind of helps us transition to our dividing polynomials. Not 1/2. Plus 1. I guess you can say 1/2. So you can actually rewrite this one also, or if you think about it, 5,287 is actually equal to 2 times 2,643 plus 1, which is just your remainder. Okay, so this is going to hopefully help you transition. If you kind of remember these steps, those very same steps are used when dividing polynomials. But it's kind of a little bit of a twist on them. All right. Okay, so let's do a quick example. Excuse me. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want to divide 6x to the third minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4 by x minus 2. Okay, so really all this says is you're going to have 6x to the third minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4 divided by x minus 2. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to rewrite it with the division bracket. Okay, so you have 6x to the third minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4 divided by x minus 2. Okay, so our very first goal is to get rid of this 6x to the third. Okay, so goal number 1, get rid of 6x to the third. Okay, so just like our other long division problem, now in order to do that, we have to multiply x by something to make it equal 6x to the third. Okay, so actually if you multiply x by 6x squared, that'll give you 6x to the third. So you put your 6x squared right up there. Okay, and remember your steps when you did your multiplication, your previous division. You multiply, then you subtract, and then you bring down. Okay, so that's exactly what you're going to do here, the same 3 steps. Okay, so you're going to multiply 6x squared by both of those, because you're multiplying this by all of that. Okay, so 6x squared times x is 6x to the third. 6x squared minus 2 is negative 12x squared. Okay, so we did our multiplying. Now we subtract. Okay, and this part can get a little bit tricky because if you're subtracting, just a little side note here, if you subtract 6x to the third minus 12x squared, you're actually going to end up, if you distribute that negative 1, minus 6x to the third plus 12x squared. Okay, so with this, 6x to the third minus 6x to the third is going to be 0, which is just what we wanted. We wanted that 6x to the third to disappear. Okay, so this will make that positive 12x squared. So 19x squared plus 12x squared will give you negative 7x squared. Because remember, that became plus 12x squared. Okay, so you multiply, you subtract it, now you bring down, plus 16x. Okay, any questions on this so far? All right. Okay, so now you do the same thing, where before you wanted to get rid of the 6x to the third. Now you want to get rid of that negative 7x squared. So you want to find some value to multiply by x to give you negative 7x to the square, 7x squared. Okay, so if you multiply negative 7x times x, that will give you negative 7x squared. So in this case, you put your negative 7x right up there. And once again, you're going to multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, so you're going to multiply negative 7x times x is negative 7x squared. Negative 7x times negative 2 is positive 14x. Okay, so we did our multiplying. Now we subtract. Okay, so you want to make sure you subtract that entire binomial or polynomial. Okay, so once you subtract, and once again, you want to remember that when you subtract, you're subtracting that whole thing. So negative 7x squared plus 14x. Once you distribute that negative 1, it becomes positive 7x squared minus 14x. Okay, so 7x squared negative 7x squared plus 7x squared is 0. So that's what you wanted. That disappears. Okay, so 16x minus 14x is 2x. Okay, so we multiply, we subtracted, now we bring down. Okay, so now, just like we got rid of this one in front, we got rid of this one in front, now we want to get rid of this one in front. Okay, so what can you multiply by x to give you 2x? That's just 2. So you put a positive 2 right up there. Okay, so once again, we're going to multiply, subtract, and we're at the last one, so there's no bring down for this one. Okay, so 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, so we multiply, now we subtract. And once again, you want to remember that negative 2x minus 4, once you distribute that negative 1, it becomes negative 2x plus 4. So 2x and negative 2x is 0, so that disappeared just like we wanted. Okay, 4, remember that becomes plus 4, so negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so that actually cancels out, so you end up with 0 there. Okay, so we can honestly say that 6x to the third minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4 divided by x minus 2 is equal to 6x squared minus 7x plus 2. Okay, and you can actually check by multiplying these two together. If you multiply these two together, your answer and your denominator, you should get your numerator. All right, so any questions on that one? Bring that down a little bit. All right, so let's do another example. Anybody still writing? All right. All right, so let's say, for example, we want to divide 24x to the third plus 2x squared minus 20x minus 6 by 4x plus 3. Okay, so really this is just another way of saying 24x to the third plus 2x squared minus 20x minus 6 divided by 4x plus 3. Okay, so if they gave it to you this way, just know that that's all they're saying. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is rewrite it with the division bracket. Okay, so we have 24x to the third plus 2x squared minus 20x minus 6 divided by 4x plus 3. Okay. And me, just to make sure I put them like on the right spot, I always do my divided by as I'm writing the bracket. So if you go divided by, then you know 24x to the third and all of that divided by 4x plus 3 is just all of that divided by 4x plus 3. So it's kind of my little trick to remember it. Okay. So our first goal is to get rid of that 24x to the third. Okay. So remember goal number 1. Get rid of 24x to the third. So to do that, it's all going to have to revolve around that 4x. So to get rid of that 24x to the third, we have to multiply 4x by something that will equal 24x to the third, which is what? Yep, 6x squared. Okay, so remember, we're going to multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, so once you find that first value, you automatically know the first three things you're going to do. Multiply, subtract, bring down. Okay, so 6x squared, you're going to multiply it by both of those. 6x squared times 4x gives us our 24x to the third. 6x squared plus 3 gives us 18x squared. Okay, so we multiply, now we subtract. And you want to remember, minus 24x to the third plus 18x squared. Once you distribute that negative value, you have negative 24x to the third minus 18x squared. Okay, so 24x to the third minus 24x to the third is 0, so that disappears just like we wanted. Okay, you always want that first one to disappear. Okay, so 2x squared, remember that becomes minus 18x squared. So 2x squared minus 18x is negative 16x squared. Okay, so we multiply, we subtract it, now we just bring down. So our minus 20x. All right. Okay, so now we got rid of the 24x to the third. Now we want to get rid of that negative 16x squared. Okay, which means we have to multiply 4x by something to give us negative 16x squared, which would be what? Yep, negative 4x. So you put your negative 4x right up there. Okay, and just like we did here, we're going to multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, so we're going to multiply our negative 4x times both of those. So negative 4x times 4x gives us our negative 16x squared. And negative 4x times positive 3 gives us negative 12x. Okay, so we multiply. Now we subtract. Again, you want to remember that negative 16x squared minus 12x, once you distribute that negative, it will become positive 16x squared plus 12x. All right, so we have negative 16x squared, positive 16x squared, which is 0, so did exactly what we wanted, it got rid of it. Okay, so you have negative 20x plus 12x will give you negative 8x. Okay, so we multiply, we subtract it, now we bring down. Okay, so we don't have anything else to bring down, so this will actually be our last multiply and subtract. All right, so now we want to get rid of that negative 8x. Okay, so we have to multiply 4x by something to get negative 8x, which would be what? Yep, negative 2. So we put our minus 2 right up there. Okay, so now just like before, we do our multiply, subtract, well, nothing else to bring down, so we don't have to do it for that. Okay, so we multiply our negative 2 times 4, well, negative 2 times 4x is a negative 8x. And negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Okay, so we multiply, now we subtract. And remember that negative 8x minus 6, once you distribute that negative sign, becomes 8x plus 6. Okay, so negative 8x plus 8x is 0, so that disappears just like we want it. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0 too, so that disappears. So you end up with a remainder of 0. Okay, so that means that we can honestly say that 24x to the third plus 2x squared minus 20x minus 6 all over 4x plus 3 is equal to 6x squared minus 4x minus 2. And again, if you want to double check your answer, just multiply those two together and you should get your numerator. All right, so any questions on that one? All right. Okay. Now this one won't have a remainder of 0, so it'll be a little bit different answer. All right, so let's say if we have there we go. Let's say if we wanted to divide, clean that up. X squared plus 3x plus 5 by x plus 1. Okay, so we can just go ahead and write that right with the bracket. So x squared plus 3x plus 5 divided by x plus 1. Okay, so remember our first goal, get rid of that x squared. So goal number 1, get rid of x squared. Okay, which means we have to multiply x by something that equals x squared. Okay, which in this case would just be x. X times x is x squared. Okay, so once again, we're going to multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, so I'm going to multiply x by both of those. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is x. Okay, so we multiply. Now we subtract. Okay, and you want to remember that negative x squared plus x, once you distribute that, is negative x squared minus x. Okay, so x squared minus x squared is 0, so that disappeared just like we planned it. And 3x minus 1x is just 2x. Okay, so we multiply, we subtract it, now we bring down. Okay, so just like we got rid of the x squared, we want to get rid of the 2x. Okay, so we multiply some number by x to give us 2x, which in this case is 2. Yep, exactly. Okay, so once again, we're going to multiply, subtract, and there's nothing else to bring down, so we're going to stop after this multiply and subtract. Okay, so 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is positive 2. So we're going to go ahead and subtract. Remember your negative 2x plus 2. It's just going to be negative 2x minus 2 after you distribute. So 2x minus 2x is 0, so that disappears. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, so here we have a remainder that's not equal to 0. Okay, so that means with your remainder, remember you place your remainder over your denominator. Okay, and remember this is your denominator, or you can save right here. Okay, so when we write this out, we can honestly say that, we'll move that up a little bit, x squared plus 3x plus 5 divided by x plus 1 equals that answer there, which is x plus 2, plus 3 over x plus 1. Okay, so that's the only difference when you have a denominator left, is you just put that, not denominator, remainder. You put that remainder over your denominator. Other than that, the steps are exactly the same. And again, you multiply these two together, you should come up with x squared plus 3x plus 5. All right, any questions on that one? All right. Looks like everyone's done writing. Excuse me. Now, one thing you want to remember, and this is actually really important, is that all exponents must be in descending order. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Okay, and we're just going to use 0x to the whatever value, put an n there, to fill spaces. Okay, so for example, if you had x to the 4th plus 3x squared, excuse me, plus x plus 5, you'll notice here you don't have an x to the 3rd. No x to the 3rd term. So you just fill it in with a 0x to the 3rd. Okay, so what you do is you rewrite it x to the 4th plus 0x to the 3rd plus 3x squared plus x plus 5. Okay, so all your exponent has to go down 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, so let's say, for example, if you wanted to divide 8x to the 3rd minus 1 by 2x minus 1. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and rewrite that. Okay. Ascending order is necessary here. Okay, because remember here, you don't have an x squared, you don't have an x. All you have is an x to the 3rd. So 8x to the 3rd minus 1, you can actually rewrite that at 8x to the 3rd minus 0x squared. Minus or plus 0 doesn't matter. Either one would work. You might do plus. Let's say plus 0 times x minus 1. Okay. So all you did was just get that very same polynomial and stretch it out by adding a bunch of zeros. Okay, now this is the one you're going to use to divide. So divide using this. Okay, so instead of 8x to the 3rd minus 1 equals that, we'll have 8x to the 3rd plus 0x squared. Oh, bring that up